Welcome back, and today we're talking about Black Clover. It is going to be a catch-up video, and so there will be a summary, and then we'll get on to the main chapter, which is the release for chapter 261 of Black Clover. Official release date is Sunday or Monday morning, depending on where you are. I'm basing this on spoilers and trying not to go too much off the translation, as essentially they can be wrong. I'm just basically going on panel by panel and seeing what they're saying, seeing if it makes sense. That being said, I will leave a timestamp at the bottom in the description that basically tells you when the actual chapter review starts. With that being said, let's get into the summary and then the review. So, on to the summary. So I want to keep this part short because the last time I did a summary to catch up for One Piece, it was hella long, and my video ended up being a 20-minute video instead of a 10-minute video. So that being said, let's just get straight into it. Let's kind of cover what's really happened in this arc as led up to this chapter, and then we'll go through the exciting bits of this chapter and the things that I found really interesting that I got really excited about. Anyway, so this arc has really been about world building. The next big bad has been developed or expanded upon, and really focuses on including or introducing the Heart Kingdom and the Spade Kingdom. So with the Heart Kingdom, we find that there's a princess, Lolopeka, and she is the owner of Undine, or essentially the wielder of Undine, the water spirit. She has 5 guardians, and she essentially oversees the Heart Kingdom. The 5 guardians of different elements, and they're essentially referred to as stage 0 magicians. So we're introduced to this kind of a staging process, which is good because it helps us essentially gauge where a person is in terms of capability. In the past we've used ranks, and this is another way of looking at it. We're also introduced to Spade Kingdom, which essentially has been taken over by these 3 siblings who are a host for devils. They refer to the Dark Triad, and essentially they're taking over or trying to take over all the different parts of the country. Their goal is to recreate the key, which is a tree, using different types of arcane magic, which is essentially special magic that's not the basic elemental magic, such as fire, lightning, water, so on, so forth. So they try to gain these or capture these arcane stage people. People that has been referred to as arcane stage is Yami, William Vengeance, or Vengeance, whatever his name is, the leader of the Golden Dawn, Julius, the former Wizard King, has also been referred to as a arcane stage mage. The demons that they use in the Dark Triad, Vanica, the lady, uses Magicula, who's essentially the one that's been putting the curses on people. It's the same person who's put the curse on the princess of the Heart Kingdom, same person who affected Asia Silva, Noella's mother, and amongst that a few other people. Essentially the young people in the Clover Kingdom receive training, such as Locke Voltier, Fuego Leon, Charmy, Lil Balmalte, Asta, Mimosa, Noella, and Nero, to name a few. I believe Finra possibly got some training as well. So a lot of this is about growth. I mean, we even see Yami with growth. We also see Yuno as growth. We find that Yuno is now a vice captain. We also now find out that he's essentially a prince of the Spade Kingdom. That being said, we see quite a few different battles. So we get told a lot about people that have been possessed and how much of the devil's ability they can use. Asta fights a captain who has 5%. We see Yuno fighting people that are around 40%. And we see some of these young people that have been trained by the Heart Kingdom fight people around 50%. What this ultimately tells you is if a person's fighting someone around 50%, other than elemental affinity and how compatible they are with the person's magic, it kind of gives you an idea that they're kind of vice captain or above. So ultimately, all these people that are training pretty much sure that they're about that level, vice captain or above. And we see even some of the triad, use their ability. I think Vanica got up to 70% before she beat everybody and took the princess, and we see that Dante went up to at least 80 before he was defeated. Ultimately, this leads us to see that Yami is taken at the end of the most recent, the 260 chapter, which leads up to this new chapter. There's a lot of different things that we can talk about in the last 25 chapters, but that's kind of a quick summary. If you want more detail, you probably want to go back and read. Unfortunately, it'd be a really long video to talk through everything. So yeah, let's get on to the review. So, chapter 261. It is pretty much an aftermath chapter, with Yami being taken last chapter by Zenon and Dante and William Vengeance. It is an aftermath chapter. Asta's getting healed up, and essentially they say to him that we can't really do anything about your right arm, as if you recall, that was the arm that he essentially gave up in a contract, and it looked armoured up when he was fighting with it for that 50 seconds or so that he was fighting with it for. But ultimately, he got told he can't do any more. One, because he can't move, and plus he's too weak. So it does tell you a lot about the Dark Triad and them physically being very capable. It also gives you an idea of time limits, because this new deeper power had a limit to it, and does that mean the Dark Triad have some type of limit, or are they that used to it, or are they that physically capable that they do not? There's something to think about timeline wise. Maybe they can't fight for an extended period of time, because whilst Dante was doing his thing, he kept upping his percentages to fight against the Black Bulls and the army. So this might be a thing. Venica did the same, so it might be a thing that they have a time limit and they wanted to quickly get out of there quickly. So that is something to consider. Then we move on to Gouch. Gouch is getting healed up, and we get told that, bearing in mind he got a broadsword straight through his chest, and we find out about Gouches and bloody hell, Gray's past. Sorry. Gray's past, but essentially Gray's power might not be in transformation, it might actually be in healing, which I think is an interesting development when you consider the fact that Black Bulls exclusively, we don't really have a healer per se. Now we do have the power of the red string, the cat, that can essentially, with Vanessa, that can revert things, but not an actual healer. So that is interesting, if that is where we're going with it. Or it might be something a lot more, unique to Grey that we don't know about. So it will be interesting to see what happens with that. And I think the best thing and the most exciting thing about this chapter is the last half of it. Because if you look at some of the Google searches, you look at a lot of the forums, Reddit, and so on and so forth, one question kept coming up: who's the vice captain? We find out this chapter we find out who this person is. Now, in Yami's fight, when he's fighting versus Dante, we see a number of panels where someone basically breaks into Dante's room and looks at some plans, and then he kind of goes into some shadow, defeats the person who sees him, and we see the Black Bull's insignia or emblem. That is the vice captain, and I was hoping that it would be him, and it seemed like it'd be him. And it's just taken 261 chapters for us to finally meet this person, because it's been mentioned really early, even in the anime and the manga, that we have people out on other missions. They're not here right now, and that was a nice ploy to kind of reintroduce him or introduce his character later on without revealing too much. And as powerful as Yami is, this guy must be something if he's essentially better than everybody else that's part of the Black Bulls. And we meet him now. Now, based on the translation, he's referred to as Nacht, N-A-C-H-T. Might be a translation thing. It might be different in the official translation, but for the time being, we'll go with that. He says he's the vice captain, and he's willing to train Asta. That is possibly probably the most important thing for Asta right now, because he admits himself he is too weak. He wants to get stronger. So with that being said, key things to point out here: he had horns, which means more than likely he's got some devil abilities, or he's got devil possession. Number two, the fact that he's got horns means he's at least 55% or above, which is important when you think about the people from the Dark Triad all being able to do that and being at least able to get to 80. My hope is that this guy is also able to do the same thing. However, one thing that stands out about this guy that the Dark Triad did not stand out with is they all have they have their own abilities, but this guy looked like he had a familiar with him, like an ominous kind of little pet that he has, which means that, from my understanding, the Dark Triad can only get 80% because they need a direct link to a demon, and that's one of the things that they're wanting to do with this tree, is get demons onto this world so they have a direct link, so they will be stronger. More than likely they'll get betrayed by demons because they don't care about humans, but that's interesting. And the fact that he's got familiar means he may have a direct link to the demons, which also means he can help us develop a more direct link to the demons, and hopefully there isn't a repercussion of the right arm contract that Asta did, with this unnamed demon that provides him with anti-magic. So really exciting. Finally we get to see Nacht, or the vice captain of the Black Bulls, and this hopefully will lead into some training which can help him prepare to better deal with the remaining members of the Dark Triad. That's all for me today. Thank you for your patience. I'll see you next time. Peace.